Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I'd like to turn the call over to your host, Ms. Erlene Dow. Erlene, you may begin.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the July Local Employment Dynamics, or LED, webinar. On behalf of the U.S. Census Bureau and the LED Partnership, in collaboration with the Council for Community and Economic Research and the Labor Market Information Institute, it is my pleasure to welcome my colleague, Chip Walker, as he presents Census Data Tools for Equity and Identifying Underserved Communities. Chip will introduce the U.S. Census Bureau's new Data Explorer tool, My Community Explorer. This data tool is an interactive map-based tool that highlights demographic and socioeconomic data that measures inequality and can help inform data-based solutions. This tool is designed to help users identify underserved communities as directed by the President's Executive Order on Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility in the Federal Workforce. Chip Walker is a creator and co-lead of the Census Bureau's Emergency Preparedness and Response Team. He has worked on Census Bureau issues for 24 years. He was appointed by the Secretary of Commerce to serve on the Committee on the African American Population for the Census Bureau's Racial and Ethnic Advisory Committee from 2004 through 2006. Prior to that appointment, Chip was staff director from 2001 to 2002 and communications director from 1998 through 2001 for the House of Representatives subcommittee at the Census. While at Census, Chip has been co-lead on the creations of On the Map for Emergency Management, Census Business Builder, the COVID-19 Interactive Data Hub, and My Community Explorer. Chip has been active in developing and promoting census equity capabilities to help identify the underserved communities. With that, I welcome Chip.
Arlene, thank you very much, and good day, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and very excited to show you one of our newest tools at the Census Bureau called My Community Explorer. Before we delve into that, what I want to do is start to show you a little bit of our other equity tools that we use here at Census. So this is our Advancing Equity with Data page, and you will have a link for this at the end of the presentation. And it highlights a number of our different tools that we believe can help people identify underserved communities, whatever the particular reason is. We have My Community Explorer, which we'll talk about in a minute. We have Census Business Builder. We have a poverty viewer. We have community resilience estimates, where I'll go into a little more detail shortly. We've developed some tools for digital equity, income and poverty interactive data tool. We have some of our surveys that were stood up during COVID, like the Household Pulse Survey, Opportunity Atlas, Quick Facts, and Response Area Outreach Mapper. And all these tools have a slightly different application to them. The reason why we developed My Community Explorer is we wanted to highlight two of our key data sets that will help people identify underserved communities. And those data sets are coming from the American Community Survey and something that is relatively new at Census called Community Resilience Estimates. And I'll talk briefly about community resilience estimates. Community resilience estimates, which is right here, is looking at the ability of individual specific geographies, either the nation as a whole, state, county, or census tract, to recover and respond to any type of impactful event. That event could have been COVID, or it could be a natural disaster, or it could be something like heat, for example. Heat is a big factor and actually kills the most deadly weather event we have on a yearly basis. is actually people that are overcome and die from heat-related illnesses. The way community resilience estimates works is it's giving basically a score of low, medium, or high risk to an adverse event. So if you have 0 risk factors, you are looking at relatively low risk. If you have 1 to 2 risk factors, you are looking at medium risk. And you have 3 or more risk factors, you are looking at a high risk to having a really poor outcome when some type of emergency event impacts your particular community. So with that, I'm going to jump over to quickly our emergency management page. So we track most emergency management events because we know that census data is very useful to FEMA, other federal agencies, to state and local governments, and just to the general public of trying to understand what the impact could be of any particular emergency. So the Census Bureau, of course, is well known for having a lot of data on people and households, but we also contain a lot of data or collect a lot of data on businesses and the economy as well. So when a particular large event strikes, we build a particular web page for that event. So you can see that we've done something recently for the tornadoes in the Midwest. And then these are some of the events. We haven't had any major hurricanes yet, but we're expected to have better than average hurricane season again this year. This is a page that we built last year for Hurricane Ida. That was a very large hurricane that really came ashore around Louisiana. And actually, if you recall, it went all the way up into the New England states, causing a lot of death and destruction from the flooding that it brought. And when we build a page, we tell you a little bit about the event, and then we show some of our key tools that you can use to look at what's happening. And this was an older page. So we have On the Map for Emergency Management, which is run out of the LED program that Erlene talked about at the beginning of this webinar. And you can see right now, this is a current view of all the major events that are going on in the country. And you can scroll in and out, click on a particular event, and get a lot of different data on the people and the labor market in that particular area. Next, I want to show you My Community Explorer. So My Community Explorer, we hope, are taking some of the best features from On the Map Emergency Management and from Census Business Builder and from Community Resilience Estimates and the American Community Survey and putting them in one easy to use tool. So there's a little note that you're greeted with to show you that there's 2 basic ways that you're going to explore data: by panning and zooming in on the map, going down to the county level or the census tract level, or you can explore a more detailed set of data by actually picking a state and picking a particular county from a drop-down menu, which is over here, which I'll show you in a second. So we're going to close this little welcoming message out, and we'll see the country. And right now, the map is displaying community resilience estimates. If we scroll in a little bit, these darker areas here and here, those are areas that people have 3 or more risk factors, so they're at high risk to an adverse outcome from any particular event. So we're going to scroll in and we're going to go over to Los Angeles here. And if we were to go right now and click on Los Angeles County, we're going to get a pop-up. And this pop-up is giving us some data from the American Community Survey on Los Angeles County. We're seeing that 14.9% had an income level in the past 12 months below the poverty level. We can look at the percentage that have a broadband subscription. We can look at the number of people with a high school graduate degree or higher. We can look at the percentage of people who speak English less than very well. We can look at the number of people over the age of 65, and we get a Genie Index, which is a measure of income inequality. So the closer to zero you are, the closer you are to total income equality, meaning an equal distribution of income across the population. And the higher you get to one, where one means perfect inequality, where you don't have a relatively even distribution of income across your population. And if we continue to scroll down, you'll see some charts and the labeling here. So we see limited English spoken at home. So each of these charts, if you hover over it, it's going to give you some data here, these little what we call tooltips, which tells you what you're looking at. And then there are other ones here as well. This one is dealing with race and ethnicity as a percent of the population. And then if we click on this next one, we start to look at the community resilience estimates, which I had mentioned before. So you can see that there's 21% of the residents in Los Angeles County have 3 or more risk factors. You can see here the number of people, and here we see 52% have 1 to 2 risk factors, and we have approximately 25% that don't have any risk factors. And you're probably wondering, what are the risk factors? Well, the risk factors would be things like elderly, which we're calling 65 or over. English is not the first language or not spoken well at home. Maybe you've been in poverty in the last 12 months. So there's things that we know help make people more likely to have an adverse outcome. And so those are the risk factors, and I'll show you more about those in a minute. We also let you know, for example, if we look at this, we see right here, we have a little sentence here. So we can tell you, because people often want to know what the context is of this percentage of having 3 or more risk factors. And so we're telling you that this is not statistically different than the national estimate. And so this gives you a little bit of context. It doesn't mean that that's an area that can't be adversely impacted. But if you're wondering how it would compare to the nation as a whole, we kind of let you know that as well. And then you can see some difference from the national estimate based on topic right here. So for example, the Genie Index of income inequality is higher than what we have for the difference from the national estimate. So I'm just going to close this out for a second and just show you that if you wanted to go in further, eventually you're going to start to see track numbers appear. And when you get into the right level here, you could pick on a census tract. So let me see, here's one that seems to, so if we click on here, so we're looking at Census Tract 4032 in Los Angeles County, and we start to see that they have 12% of their, 51.12% of the residents have 3 or more risk factors. 27% have 1 to 2 risk factors, and 21% have 0 risk factors. And again, you can go down and look at this by topic to see if it's statistically different than what the national estimate is. And again, you're starting to see some of the risk factors, not only the Genie Index, but you look at the population in rural areas, the median age of the population, population over 65, non-institutionalized population with a disability, population whose income in the last 12 months is below the poverty level, households with a female householder, no spouse or partner present with children, the male householder, same thing, occupied units. So we have a number of different things here that you're able to sort of look at. Now, this is just exploring some of the data here. If you were to notice, none of the data over here in this panel has changed. This panel right now is representing the United States as a whole. But if we really wanted to look at a specific county and look at some different county economic profiles, social characteristics, race and ethnicity, and a business profile, we can do it from this panel over here, where we would select California. We'll come over here to this panel and we're going to pick Los Angeles. So we're picking Los Angeles County. And now you know that this is all changed now to reflect Los Angeles County. And you're also going to see now a county economic profile when we go through these tabs. So now we see the Genie Index of 0.5, households below the poverty, household income less than 75,000. We have some interactive charts here. Population without health insurance by age. Total household income under 100,000. And that's the economic profile. The socioeconomic profile. Here we have some social characteristics. So we can see the number of people with disabilities, 65 and over, without a vehicle, households with broadband, or 84% of the households have broadband. We can see language spoken at home. And we could see language spoken at home by those who speak English less than very well. We can click over here and we can see some county race and ethnicity data. If you were to zoom in on this part of the map, you can still use it, and it's going to bring up some of the charts that we were looking at, or the pie charts that we were looking at before. And then we have some, also, let me show you, if you were not that much interested, and you just wanted to make this easier to view, you can just expand that over here. And then we have a county business profile coming from 3 of our economic surveys, including county business patterns and non-employer statistics. So this is looking at total employer establishment. So an employer establishment is an establishment with 1 or more paid employees, and these are going by 2-digit NAICS. And then you can come over here and look at non-employers. So that would be the company or business doesn't have any paid employees. That is a significant part of many economies. If you think of people who are consultants, accountants, sometimes attorneys, they're sort of a one-person shop or a mom and pop store or something like that. Oftentimes people who are realtors are non-employers. They may work for a particular realty company, but they don't work as an employee of the company. They're sort of a contractor of the company. So when you look at the non-employers, that's also important when you're measuring the particular impact. So that's what you want to do. Remember that when you want to use these profile buttons down at the bottom, you're going to have to go over to these 2 yellow boxes or gold boxes here, select a state, and then select a county. I want to show some more features here, so I'm just going to not wait for the map to build again for me, and I'm just going to open up a new tab here. And this time we'll just zoom into a different part of the country. We'll go over to the East Coast, and we're going to pick, let's see here. We're going to pick Fairfax County, Virginia. It's a pretty diverse county. And the one thing that I want to show you that's different is you also have the ability within here to link to a very vibrant report coming from another one of our census tools called Census Business Builder. So if I were to click on this for Fairfax County, it's going to build, and it's going to take a while. To save some time, I think I have a report created here. So this one I had built for Los Angeles County, but you'll see that link right at the top, view detailed report via Census Business Builder. So we're great that we can use 2 different tools and combine them and show you some great data. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get all these demographic characteristics. So 18 and over, percent under 5 years. You have these interactive charts here. Anytime you see this, you could switch. So if we wanted to look at, let's see here, 65 and over, we would just click here and these charts change. And this is year over year. So this is the 2011 to 2015, the 2016 to 2020. You can see how your region compares to the US and to the state. And then you can also go down and get socioeconomic characteristics associated with that geography that you selected. You can get housing characteristics associated with that geography. And then you can get some business characteristics. So these are employer businesses. Again, those are businesses of one or more employee. This is blank because the particular NAICS that we're looking at right now is 00, so we don't calculate business revenue at that NAICS. We can look at the non-employer businesses. We can look at some data on the workforce. We have data from the workforce coming from the Department of Labor, as well as our own LEHD quarterly workforce indicators. We have some data on building permits. And we have some business comparisons. If you look across all employer establishments, annual payroll, revenue of employers, your non-employers, and your revenue of non-employers. We have some key ratios that we've built as well. So you can look at revenue per non-employer firm, average employment per employer, things like that. And then we have some business ownership data, which is all showing non-A at the moment. So that's usually a disclosure issue, but you can see the percentages across here. And then we have some consumer spending data that we have acquired from another company that shows you money spent across these various sectors of the economy. And then another feature of this tool, close out, is if you're looking at the potential impact of an event, and let's say you're interested in more than one, what the impact could be for more than one area, you have the ability here to select multiple geographies by doing point, rectangle, lasso, circle, or line. I'm going to pick the lasso, and I'm going to say that, let's say a hurricane were to impact the Washington area, which is rare, but does happen, and it were to impact these counties. So that's my lasso. And so what you're going to notice is over here on this right-hand panel, all these counties are now reflected here. And the data that you're seeing in this panel is now the aggregated data from the geographies that you selected. You could select these geographies at the state level, the county level, or the census tract level. And for those that aren't familiar with what a census tract is, that is essentially, you can think of it as a neighborhood. Over here are the various layers that layers that you can bring into the tool. Right now, the only thing we're displaying are hurricanes, and there are no active hurricanes impacting the United States at this time. We could turn hurricanes off, and let's say we wanted to turn on wildfires, we would just unblock the eye, and wildfires would come up. We probably need to span out a little bit. Okay, here we go. Now we're starting to get some wildfire data. And if you want to know what these symbols mean, if you scroll down on this reference layer legend, you will come down to the wildfire legend, which is going to show you what these symbols mean in terms, in this case, it's in terms of acres. We also have in here air quality. And because heat is such a significant impact, we're working on trying to get some heat data in here. And right now, we have the National Weather Service 3-day minimum maximum temperature forecast. As most of us know, we're in a bit of a heat wave, which has just made its way to the East Coast. But many people in this part of the country, in the central part of the country, and even in Minneapolis, I learned something yesterday that Minneapolis has had more 90-degree days than Washington, D.C. has this year. So heat is definitely impacting a lot of different places. Some other features that you can do. If you want to download data, you can go to this table, you can search by county, or you can, if you have counties with multiple names, you will be able to use the geo ID, which will be here. Like if I were to enter Greene County, there's probably a bunch, and search, it's going to hopefully bring back a number of all the counties that have green, and there's a number of them, as you can see. But you would just go and enter this GeoID if you wanted to search just by a specific county. And then when you find the data that you want, Greene County, Alabama, you have the ability with this action that you can export all the data that you're looking at. Another feature at the request when we first exhibited this tool, so this is version 2.0, people wanted to know how could they get the data services that we're acquiring to build some of these. And you would just click on data services. You can look at the track feature service, county, state, the ACS web services across these different types of ACS data, county business patterns and non-employer web services, and then the services that we are involving when we bring in these live feeds coming from different federal agencies that are supplying this data, like the National Hurricane Center and NOAA. And then you have the ability to learn more about community resilience estimates, the American Community Survey, county business patterns, and non-employer statistics. You can also click here and get more about how to use this and the data shown and the different site features that I've demonstrated here for you. You can look at some use cases that we've built for you that might help you sort through how you might like to use the tool. You can look at the latest release notes. So these are the release notes that with this latest version that we released on June 30th. You also have the ability here to share. So you can share across these different platforms. I apologize, I have a little video panel blocking me right now, but across here, you can do the long link to the tool or a short link, and then you can share across these different, you can embed it, QR code it, you can send it in an email. This will open up your email browser or your email client. You can do on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And you also have the ability, and this is very important, to leave feedback. There are two different ways. You can click on the feedback button here. This will again open up your email client with the subject line already populated so we know where you're reviewing the tool from, or you can copy and paste this outreach email box here, which we monitor on a daily basis. So I think with that, I will stop. I'm sure there are questions, and hopefully I can answer them. But thank you again for this. And just as when we get to the end of the Q&A, I will also share my contact information with you.
Thank you, Chip. Before we move to the questions in the Q&A, we received a few questions regarding the presentation, which will be accessible on the Census Academy website in a week or two at census.gov/academy under the webinar tab. Greg has added a link in the chat. Please also type your questions in the Q&A. At this time, the chat has been disabled for our attendees. Now we'll move to the first question. Chip, it looks like at-risk factors. Let me repeat that again. It looks only like at-risk factors and not including protective factors. Is this correct?
Can you repeat the second part of that? Protective, was that protective factors?
It only looks like, yes, it only looks at saying the application only looks at risk factors and
yes.
does not include protective factors. Just
so I'm not sure what is meant by protective factors, but it is correct, the first part, that it is only looking at risk factors, but I don't know the definition of what a protective factor is. I'm sorry. Maybe they could, I don't know if they have the ability to unmute or drop it in the chat, or feel free to reach out to me when I share my email in just a minute.
All right, the second question is actually a double question. So the first question to this is, do the high school graduates include GED recipients? And the second question that comes with that is, does the county profile include the number of public schools and public libraries anchor institutions, question mark.
So I don't know the GED question, but I can get that answer for you. So again, please reach out to me in the email that I'm going to share. But that I can easily get that answer for you. And then can you repeat the second one again? Oh,
Sure.
I know what it was. Okay, no, I got
Oh.
it. Okay, so I actually wrote it down. So it does not include those institutions. However, this is only version 2.0 of the tool. We are working on another version where we do want to add in many more layers, including things like schools, libraries, other things that are institutional. We would very much like to do that. I would also encourage you to respond in the feedback to what you think would be useful to put into the tool. This tool is being developed under an agile development style project management, which means that we will continue to develop it based on user feedback. And so this is version 2.0. For those, if anyone saw version 1.0, this is very different. We had two maps that sort of panned together, and you had to click on a county on one map and another county on another map. You were also only able to get one ACS variable at a time. And based on user feedback, we're now allowing the user just to click once on one map, and you can actually see all of the ACS variables at the time when you click on those resource boxes that I showed you earlier.
Tanja?
Sorry, for some reason I was muted again. Next question, I apologize. Can you select 3 neighboring counties at once?
Yes, you would have to do the draw feature. So hold on one second here. Let me get out of this and go back to this screen. Oops, I have another instance of the tool open here. So yes. So let's say you were looking at, I don't know, Colorado, since it's right here in the middle. You would scan in to where you have your county identifiers here. You would come over to this box here. You would pick any one of these, a lasso, a circle, a line. If you did a line, you just go like this. I want this county, I want this county, and I want this county. And it's going to build the counties over here for you. If you come over here, I'm just going to click that out. You do a lasso. Let's zoom in first, sorry. So you wait till you get your county names, and then you go ahead and you build your county with the lasso. And you can tell not very good at circle drawing, but we've now incorporated all of these counties. You could also do this if you zoomed in further at the census tract level. And again, you can do points, rectangle, lasso, circle, or a line.
All right, the next question is there a way of looking at tract question mark? LA County is huge, and there are hotspots within that can be better identified for action if we can go local.
Sure, so let me zoom in here. Well, let's just do San Jose for a second here. So I kind of lost my bearings, but yes, you would just keep on zooming in using your mouse or your keypad. And now we see where we've come to census tract level. So yes, so you can go in all the way down to census tract. We give you the tract number. You would just click on it, and the pop-up box for that with community resilience estimates pops up as the first thing. And then if you click over here, then you get those ACS variables that we've been talking about. So yes, you can zoom in to census tract.
I'll go ahead and read this one. Why just risk factors? I think that was a question asked earlier. Why not also a set factors such as bilingualism?
So what you could do potentially in this tool, let me back up. Community resilience estimates was based on a set of risk factors originally for COVID-19. It looked at things such as age, respiratory illness, overcrowding, these things that we knew were leading to bad outcomes for households and such regarding respiratory illnesses. If someone is not muted, if you can mute, that would be great. Thank you. So then they took, when the executive order came out on equity, they sort of retooled the risk factors that they were looking at. And they started looking at risk factors that we think pertain to equity. I will say that one of the risk factors is English not spoken well. If you wanted to look at your own set of risk factors per se, we can do that by going to other tools that the Census Bureau has and allowing you to zoom in. Hey, Greg, is it possible for you to mute everybody? Someone has a hot mic. Okay, here we go. And Erlene or Tanja, if you're going to read the next question, you're probably going to have to unmute maybe.
Okay, all right. So the next question is, can you filter the different risk factors to look at only a subset?
Yes.
Okay.
If you were to come over here to the layers, this box contains all, let me just show it again. It's right here. Over here, layers. This contains not only the emergency management layers, but it includes the layers for the different risk factors that make up the CRE. So we can look at, for example, if we want to do population below poverty or broadband tracts, we would click on this, and now we're starting to look at population below poverty. Now, you may want to unclick on the more of these that you have open, the more difficult it's going to be able to see. But right now, we're looking at population over here, below poverty, the tract. So these are the percentage of people whose income in the past 12 months is below the poverty level. And you can see here, I can just scroll down here a little more. Here's your legend. And then here's a tract with a high rate of people below poverty. So let's go and look at that. And this is telling us here that 21.5% of the population had an income below poverty level in the past 12 months. And that's for Census Tract 5057. There's all the other risk factors are here. What you would want to do, though, is you're going to want to first close out the one risk factor. And then, so here we go, we're looking at track. Close out that, and then pick your next one. Maybe you were interested, someone had mentioned educational attainment earlier. Maybe you're interested in that. So you would turn on educational attainment. And now we see educational attainment here. Population 25 years and over, high school graduate or higher. And again, if you want to, it automatically kept you in the census tract that you were previously in, 5057. And then if you wanted to look at something else, you would turn that off, and maybe you wanted to look at language spoken at home or 65 and older. I know we had some interest in language, so let's turn that one on. Now, sorry, let's expand out a little bit. Now we look at language spoken at home, where English is less than very well. And so again, this is giving us information for track 5057. And you can see the way the legend is breaking out here. So the short answer is yes, you can come over here and look at individual variables on the map.
Great. Next question is, color is shaded by percent of risk factor?
Yeah, it's shaded by 0 risk factors, 1 to 2 risk factors, or 3 or more risk factors. And it's considered 0 risk factors is considered low risk. So low risk of having a bad outcome to any type of adverse event. 1 to 2 risk factors means you have a medium risk of having an adverse outcome to any type of impactful event. And the 3+ risk factors are the darker sort of purplish color that will show you risk factors of 3 or more. So this map is still showing us predominant risk factors. So I'll switch back over to that for a second. And we can see, whoops, sorry. I'm just going to zoom in on some areas that are standing out. So Apache County, that's standing out. We can go in even at the census tract level and start to see that, like, this particular census tract is having some issues here with a high percentage of 3 or more risk factors. So with this census tract 9439.01, which is in McKinley County, New Mexico, they have 65% of the people in that tract have 3 or more risk factors.
Okay. Next question is very similar to the other questions. Is there any way to change the statistical, and I think they mean comparison, i.e. state or county instead of nation?
There is not at this time. And so, but it's something that I'm happy to raise to the community resilience estimate team. But right now, it's just, I believe they're only comparing to the nation. In some of our tools, we do take the data and compare it to sort of a succession of geographies. So if you were looking at a county, you could compare it to the state, and then the state to the nation. But with CRE right now, you're only looking at the nation. But I'm happy to broach that question with the community resilience estimate team. And I will, you'll see my contact information. If you want to make sure that I get back to you with an answer for that, please send me an email.
Okay, the next question I think is a follow-up question, which was another asset factor / data, % of multi-generational HH.
So in theory, we could put any of the ACS data variables into this tool, but we can't put them all in. And so if you could help make a strong use case for that, we are open to any suggestions. So I'd like to hear from you after this is over, please. Thank you.
Next question is, can we download this data and shapefiles so we can add to Google Maps?
I don't know. This is based on the ArcGIS platform built by Esri Corporation. I do not know the answer to that question. I've never had that before, but it's a good question, and I'm happy to research that answer for you with our developers.
Next question is, thanks for answering question. Are you able to integrate COVID data, economic employment displacement, and debt and heat by zip code?
Not at this time, but we are strongly considering zip code. Right now, community resilience estimates is not at zip code, but ACS could be helpful in that regard. So certainly having some type of zip code level data in this tool is something that we want to do in a future version. And I think our next version will be coming out sometime in September. So you might actually see some of your comments and questions that you've raised addressed as early as September.
Next question.
We sort of have to look at what the lift is for each of these particular requests and measure it against available budget and those obvious things. But But I can assure you that whenever we see something that we think, like getting zip code level data into this tool, it's something that we've been talking about, and we certainly want to make this tool as useful as possible.
Okay, is there an easy way within this tool to download the relevant raw data after you have filtered it to your area of interest?
So I don't know that a relatively easy way, but you would come up to this table and you would enter your tract or your county, and then you would get the data available, and then you could take the action to export that data. That's the simplest way. We are looking at ways to make this happen easier. So for example, if I clicked on this tract to, you can get the detailed report from Census Business Builder, but it's not the raw data that you're talking about. We are looking at ways and exploring ways to make some of the features that you have to go into this table to do, to be able to do from a box like this. I will also mention that this product is a commercial off-the-shelf product that Esri offers, and that essentially means that this product was already built. It has some ability for us to customize it, but this isn't a fully customizable product that we built from scratch. It's much more cost effective to use a product that's already available with some customizable features, and we try to take advantage of that. So sometimes when we go to the developers and we ask them, hey, can we do this? They're like, that's a great idea, but no, this tool doesn't allow you to customize in that fashion. And so these are some of the things that we continue to explore with the developers. We want it to be as few clicks as possible for you to get to the data that you need to do your job, write your report, or whatever it is you need the data for.
Next question, can you change years you are looking at and or compare over time?
At this time, you cannot. That would be a feature we might consider. So we are right now in the terms of community resilience estimates in the ACS data. That's 5-year ACS data from 2015 to 2019. And we are hoping sometime in the future to update to 2016 to 2020. Right now, that's the data that we're using in this tool. I will say that there are other tools that you may be able to use that can give you a different data set and to compare over time. If you, I can find that report. This report, which was the link that was the top of that box that said link to the Census Business Builder report. If I scroll up here and we're looking at this ACS data for demographic characteristics, you will see a comparison over time. So this we're looking at right here, 65 and over, percent over time, 2011 to 2015 and 2016 to 2020. Any of these can be compared in this just by clicking on these. So one of these is a comparison over time, and this little symbol here means you can get a geographic comparison. So the geographic comparison would be your region, the country, and your state. And then, so for example, if we wanted to look at, let's go down to another one. Well, here's the high school degree or higher. I know we were talking about that. So it looks like from 2011 to 2015, there's a slight change from 2016 to 2020. And again, when you see these illuminated, it means that you can, this is just average travel time to work. So let's just look at that. So we do have some comparisons in some other tools. Happy to connect you for these other tools and how to use them. This Census Business Builder is very dynamic. And again, the way I was getting here, wasn't it? Sorry. Was from View Detailed Report link via Census Business Builder. So you've selected a geography and you're going to build a report via Census Business Builder here. And let me also add, it's not here yet, but it will be within the next week or two. We're going to have a video, I think it's about 8 minutes long, that will demonstrate this tool for you again, to show you again how to use the different features. This video will appear up here and you can click and watch it anytime at your leisure. We're in the process of transcribe. We have to, once we have done the video and it is complete, we need to then transcribe it so that we can have a transcript available for those that are visually impaired. And we're in the transcription stage. As soon as that is ready, it will become available up here on the tool.
Okay, are the census tracts reflected here based on 2010 or 2020 data?
Right now, they are 2010 census tracts, and we hope to be able to update those in this fall to the 2020 tracts. That's a very, very good question.
Any explanation for coloring on a map, on map?
No, these maps were created color scheme by the individual program areas. So we took their mapping scheme. If you were to use another community resilience estimates tool, this is the color scheme that you would see. And there is another tool I've talked about a little bit in regards to this report called Census Business Builder, and it gives you the option of different map templates. But right now, we do not have that ability in this tool.
Okay, this question is lengthy. So on that dashboard Chip showed, it seems odd that the broadband detail shows household with broadband. That's a positive metric in its context, while the others were displayed as metrics with somewhat of a negative context. It would be more natural for the reader/user if that number showed households without broadband going along with the other metrics, where a higher number is a negative indicator in some way. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I get that, and that number is coming from the American Community Survey. So I'm going to have to ask why. There may be a reason that I'm not aware of about why they're doing it. Maybe it's the way the question was asked, but I think that's a valid point, and I will take it to the American Community Survey team.
Next question is, this is an incredible amount of data and such a diverse way of looking at multiple factors at varied geographies. Wealth of opportunity for analysis, amazing work, bravo. Very much needed in DEIA and environmental justice fields.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. We are, like I said in the beginning, we are very excited about this, and we think this is only iteration 2.0. And if we can continue to develop this tool, I think that we can make it even better. And everyone's comments are taken. I've been taking notes, and I'm going to put my email up here for people to write more, please. Encouraged to hear from you and your feedback. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to read the next question, which is, how is the lasso different from the circle or rectangle?
I think the circle, that's a good question. I think the circle, you're actually going to draw a circle, where the lasso could be like an oblong circle. And then the rectangle, you're going to be drawing more of a rectangle shape. So lasso is sort of what I was probably more of a freehand.
Okay, next question is, what Was data collected that factors any criminal arrests, convictions, and or community reentry demographic information?
Not in this tool.
Okay. Can you put rain weather too? Knowing heat plus how dry it might be is good.
I've made a note of that. So I assume the person's probably talking about drought, maybe. But that's something that I'm happy to take a look at and see if what services might be available that we can consume.
Is CRE data available by ZICTA?
It is not.
All right. This question is going to take a little bit of time, and we have so many questions, but
Is it a
maybe you can.
question? Is it a question better suited for them to ask it in the email?
No, I think you can
Okay.
answer it by maybe sending a link. So it's can you demo the county business patterns?
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
So there is a link to county business patterns in the tool. If you go to data services and scroll down, you're going to see a link to county business patterns. It should take you to the page. If that isn't sufficient, then please reach out to me through the email being shown on the screen now.
Yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't take time for that, but we have a lot of questions. So this next question, hello, number one, in general, how close to real time, to date and time, is the data shown on the Community Explorer? And can you compare the data for multiple locations and time spans on screen and then download the data as one file?
You cannot do all that was described, unfortunately. Um, you, the data, it depends on what data. If you're talking about community resilience estimates, and if you're talking about the ACS data, you're looking at 2015 to 2019 and 2019 annual for the CRE. As many people may know, the 2020 1-year annual ACS data was only released as an experimental data product because of some issues regarding collection during COVID. So the CRE has yet to update to the 2020, and it may be updated or it may not be updated till the 2021 is available. And then the ACS data, the 5-year estimates that are able, the great thing about the 5-year estimates is they're able to take you down to geographies of 65,000 or less. And so that's what we're using now with a plan to update from 2015 to 2019 to 2016 to 2020 this fall.
Okay. When do you expect the refresh from the 2020 census will roll out? So I guess you kind of answered that question just now, right?
Yes.
All right. Next question is how/who determines the risk factors?
So there's an area at the Census Bureau that does small area estimates and modeling. And it's within the demographic directorate, and it's that branch, the small area estimates branch, that does that works on these and decides the risk factors. But I will say that it's not done in a vacuum. We work with other federal agencies such as Health and Human Services and agencies that have what we would say are stakeholders in some way in examining risk factors for whatever their purpose is, and we try and get input on what risk factors we select.
Can we get race/ethnicity data by age?
You can, but I don't think we have it in this tool. But yes, you can get that. You would, and you would get that from the American Community Survey.
Protective factors can be thought of as strengths and assets in the community.
Oh, okay, I understand. I understand. So, so that's a good point, I think. And we are only looking solely at the risk factors and not the strengths of a particular community.
Okay. Is it possible to see data trends over time in a certain area? For example, the percentage of people in LA who speak English less than very well in 2012, 2013, 2014, etc.
There is, but not within this tool. And probably for that sort of specific request, you probably would need to go into data.census.gov and do that. And I'm sure there are tutorials on Census Academy on how to use data.census.gov. And maybe, Arlene, someone can drop the link into the Q&A for Census Academy. So people can go there and you can see a whole host of educational videos on different subject areas, including how to go in and use data.census.gov. And if that's not working for you, again, use this ewd.outreach@census.gov, which is monitored daily, and we can get you the help that you need.
Yes, and then Greg has been putting the link, there he goes, link into the chat, so you can look it up there. Next question. So do community resilience estimates only utilize the estimates of risks, or are there elements that account for capacity for response and recovery from risks? If it's only based on risk factor, that does not seem to indicate resilience.
Right. And I think that's sort of like the protective question that came up earlier. And the answer is it is only looking at risk factors right now. Future versions may take into account something like that. I would say that one of the difficulties that I just, when I think about that off the top of my head, we're using risk factors from data that the Census Bureau collects and analyzes for the most part. I don't know how we could collect data or where we could get data on the strengths or the capacity of every single community in the country. But I think the point is a relevant point. I think there would be broad discussion over what is a strength and what isn't a strength. Maybe even within that same community, some people may say, well, our infrastructure is a strength, and some people may say, no, it's not as good as it could. Yeah, I just think that there's lots of pitfalls there, where when we look at the risk factors from the data that we collect in the American Community Survey, we're very comfortable in that space. But I think what you're raising is valid. I do a lot of work on community planning and capacity building, and so I understand that sometimes communities have communities are not all created equal. Some definitely have the ability to recover more quickly and to be attentive to their underserved communities than other communities do, even neighboring communities. States are not equal in that ability either. So I think that's valid, but at this time we're not able to measure that.
All right, next question. How does resiliency factor into the risk factoring? So I think you kind of answered that.
Yes, that's the same thing.
Let's see. What you have done is amazing. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Can you demonstrate how to search this question? Number of Black-owned businesses in New Jersey.
Yes. Well, the short answer is we do collect that data. And we certainly would have it at the state level. What I'm not aware of is how easy it is, but please email me and I will, you may be able to get it from Census Business Builder. I don't want to go searching for that now because I know we have limited time, but please email me and we can get you that answer. We do have a survey of business owners that is displayed in one of the screens that I showed you earlier, that if you click on that link to the Census Business Builder report and then you scroll down, you will see the data that we have on business owners. Although that, I believe, is going to be at the county level, but you can also get it at the state level as well.
Okay, next question. Is the broadband
And
data...
you would, and I'm sorry, and you would want to make sure that it's NAICS 00, but I can help you out with all of that. Sorry about that, Arlene.
It's okay. Is the broadband data subscription rates or access? Meaning, where is it offered?
I believe the question is answered that they have a broadband subscription. We do have, if you look on the Advancing Equity page, which I have here, you're going to see a broadband access tool. It's very simple to use. You just click on a geography and you have 5 different categories of broadband access, and that may give you more data than we're offering up here. But it's I believe it's going to only be at the state level.
Okay, next question. Is one able to download the various variables for all states? Example, Genie coefficient.
For all states. I know what you're answering. So I imagine the Genie coefficient is in data.census.gov, and you would be able to accomplish that.
Okay. If we want to identify and map the census tracts within our county that are below poverty threshold, can we do this through Census Bureau's website?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Can the map...
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of what the short answer is. Yes, you can. I, off the top of my head, don't know what the most effective tool will be, but I can, if you email me, I can help guide you, or someone can help guide you to the tool that would do it the most efficient way for you.
Okay. Can the maps be printed?
You would just do a print screen.
And then here's the same question. Is this available for Tracts?
It is. You just need to zoom in on the map until you see the tract labels come up, and they'll be, first you'll see the county labels come up. They'll obviously look like county names. And then when you zoom in further, you'll see numbers come up and replacing the counties. And those are going to be your census tracts.
Great. Does the data include the 2020 census? We answered that part. It looked like it was data through 2019.
Correct. It does not include the 2020 yet.
Okay, great. Next question is, a lot of the variables are using figures from 17, 18, and 19. Is there any plan to make, okay, so we've answered that question. Yes, we are planning to make it more current, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With the draw feature, what is the difference between, okay, we did that one, lasso, rectangle, or circle.
Right. What I would encourage the users to do is to go in, open up the draw feature, and just click on one, and you'll easily see exactly what it does and which one is the easiest way for you to get your geographies represented.
And again, a comment. This version is an incredible upgrade. Thank you for all your hard work. Next question is, can you compare non-neighboring counties, example, Los Angeles counties and a county in New York City?
In this particular tool, you would not be able to do a side-by-side. Well, that's not true. You could probably do it using the point feature where you select a county and then you'd have to go to the other side of the country and select another county. I've never tried that before, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's what I would try, the point feature where you're not doing a continuous circle or a connected lasso or something like that. And definitely if data, definitely in a tool that we have, the Census Business Builder tool, which I've just shown the report, but that report is actually built off an interactive map, and that you absolutely have the ability to go from to pick any region that you would build, whether they are connected by geography or not.
Somebody wrote, my pop-up box just has the header, but is otherwise blank. Any suggestions? Is that a browser, possibly?
I don't. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why there would, if you clicked on a geography and a box popped up, I don't know why it would be blank. I would suggest maybe trying another browser, or maybe the data is just taking a certain amount of time to populate. But I have not experienced that particular issue before.
Okay. Next question, are you unincorporated designations available in this tool? Are unincorporated designations available in this tool?
Only if they are designated as a county equivalent by the Census Bureau.
Okay. Next question, how do you create the report that you showed for a collection of tracts? We answer that.
Well, okay, so if you have a collection of tracts, right now the report feature does not build a report for a collection of geographies. That being said, there is a tool that does allow you to do it. It is something that we want to do in My Community Explorer, but it's a heavy lift, and so we haven't gotten to that yet. I hope maybe that'll be something we can do for the September release, where you would draw that lasso and those 5 or 6 or whatever geographies that you selected, you would be able to build a report from those. You can get the aggregate data that's going to be in that right hand blue box is going to be the aggregate data for that area. But as far as a report goes, that's on our wish list of things to come. In Census Business Builder, you can absolutely do that at the tract level, at the county level. You can mix geographies. You can have 3 counties, a state, and these other census tracts in another state. It's a very dynamic tool, and it's also, I would say, 5 or 6 years in development ahead of where MCE is, but we are efforting to try and incorporate the best features of some of our most dynamic tools.
Okay, and still in the same question, I mean, it's not the same question, but it's very similar.
Sure.
It's about downloading the data in shapefiles or GDB files to create maps. And then there's another one regarding Excel files. So can you download it to Excel file as well?
Right. So you can export the data from the table feature, and some of those other features that they're talking about, shapefiles and such, are not. It's not possible to do now, but we hope to be able to have more ways to download the data and more ways to report the data in future versions.
Okay, there are multiple other federal agencies that are also developing tools to identify the location of disadvantaged or vulnerable communities. It would be both efficient and effective if those agencies collaborated on a master tool, i.e. EPA equals EJ screen, and then they just named a whole bunch of different data tools.
And I certainly agree with that. And we do actually, in many interagency working groups, share our products and such. And so, we talk to FEMA regularly. We talk to other federal agencies like HHS and EPA. Oftentimes, an agency needs a tool to do something very specific to what its efforts are. But I agree that we do try at times to be as efficient as possible.
Okay, next question. Where do I find the definition/list of the risk factors that are currently included?
So there's, you can go, let me, I don't really want to search, but Greg, maybe you could drop the link to CRE from census.gov into the chat. So I don't do the search on my screen that I'm sharing right now, please. That would be great. When you get that link, you'll see the CRE 2019, and then you'll see the CRE link to CRE equity supplement. And you would want to click on the equity supplement. And then if you click on the technical documentation, then you can see the risk factors that were considered and other things that you might find interesting.
All right, next question. Are there any examples of real-life use cases of this tool? This looks really interesting, and I will look forward to poking around with it, but I'd love to see someone's examples of how this has been used in local decision making. I can imagine municipal bodies and nonprofits using it. Would love to see some examples.
Right. So this tool was initially version 1.0 was released in March, the end of March. And then 2.0 was released on June 30th. So I think we're still working hard to get this out there and more well known. And hopefully, I know from comments that we've received in the email box that people are finding it useful, but I would have to work a little harder to pull out some specific use cases. There are use cases in the how to use. If you click on the how to use button in the upper right of the tool, there are two use cases. I think one's for transportation and maybe the second one is for healthcare. You can look at that. Those aren't necessarily cases that have actually happened, but we know that the way certain agencies want to use data, that these are valid use cases. But I agree, and we hope to be getting in some use cases as more and more people use this tool and more governments use it.
When you click on a county or a census tract, does it tell you which risk factors were satisfied in order to be determined as medium or high risk?
It does not. And that's a very interesting question. But it does not tell you that. It just tells you that they had 3 or more, or 1 to 2, or 0.
Okay,
But
so
again, I'm taking notes here, and these are good questions to take back to the various teams that have developed the inputs into My Community Explorer.
All right, we're coming up on 30 minutes past the time of the webinar, so I'm just going to read a few more questions. We're going to take the questions and give them to Chip so he can answer them, and then it'll be hopefully posted within where the webinar will be recorded. So I apologize that we can't get to everybody's questions, but we did a really good job by doing at least half of them. So I'm going to read the next 3 questions. Will you provide a census tract and zip code conversion feature? Zips change frequently and are based on mail delivery, which has changed radically since COVID shelter-in-place workspaces. Also, will you provide congressional and other political DISTR districts? I think that means
Yeah,
districts.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we would like to put in congressional districts into this. Probably can't do statewide legislative districts for your state house and state senate, but we would look to possibly do congressional districts. And can you repeat the first part of that question, please?
Sure. Will you provide census tract and zip code conversion features?
Right. So not necessarily. And we always warn people to use zip codes sort of at your own risk. The participant is absolutely correct that zip codes are designed for one purpose, and it's to help deliver the mail. But they have been adopted by numerous aspects of our environment, our economy, and businesses for other purposes. And sometimes it's okay to use a zip code and everything kind of falls into place and works out okay. And sometimes it's not. So we always warn people. But we have so many requests for zip codes that it is that we feel that when we can, we try to provide data at the zip code level. And yes, sometimes they might match up nicely with a tract, and sometimes they may not. And so that's just sort of a risk.
All right, next question. Can you find out which are the most common risk factors within a given county or census tract?
Not that I'm aware of, but again, that's another good question about community resilience estimates. And I will, again, bring all of these thoughts to, it's great to hear so many people thinking of interesting ways to use the data outside of this sort of box that we've painted you into. And so this is great. And these are all great comments that can help us think about CRE and other things that we do a little differently.
Next comment is amazing tool, census home run. Thank you. And then the next one is can change the category breaks in a layer. For example, for the Genie Index, can you add another break at greater than 0.75 and above? Thanks.
I don't know the answer to that question. I am not part of that team that developed this index, but it's something that I can certainly take back to them for different breaks.
There is a comment that says the maps aren't loading right now on My Community Explorer. And the next question, and this will be the last question because it's an easy question. When we say zip codes, we mean ZICTA, right?
No.
Oh, no.
So ZICTA is the census form of a zip code. And then zip code is the United States Postal Service's zip code. So that is definitely different. And so what we do, for example, in some tools is we try and match the ZICTAs up with the zip codes, and they often do match up, but sometimes they don't. And the ZICTA, so not too much speak, is zip code tabulation area, and that is not the same as a zip code. In Census Business Builder, we try to match those up. There are no ZICTAs or zip codes in this tool, but it's something that we work with all the time. And oftentimes they match up. They probably match up more often than they disagree, but they are two separate things.
All right, and I'm just going to read one more, and then we're going to close out the webinar. So how about ELL data, English language learner? Data seems difficult to find beyond public school data.
English language what?
English language learner.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But if you can email me, I can reach out to our ACS folks and hopefully get an answer for you.
Okay. So I apologize again. We had 94 questions in the Q&A. We were able to answer 65 of the questions. If your question did not make it, please send it to the email box. I'm getting a message that the WebEx does not actually save the Q&A, so I apologize. So with that, I just want to say thank you to Chip for this wonderful presentation and this awesome data tool. And Chip, would you like to make any closing remarks?
Sure. Yeah, we're very excited about My Community Explorer and the ability for the Census Bureau to help people identify underserved communities. I really, this has been an amazing group of people who have joined this with some great ideas and really, really good questions for things that we can do to improve My Community Explorer. Please don't hesitate to reach out through this email that you're seeing on the screen right now. It's a box that's monitored daily. So I imagine there may be a flood of emails coming in here, but all these emails will eventually make it to my inbox, and I will try and assist you or someone from our outreach working group will reach out to you and try and get all your questions answered, help you with finding other tools that may meet your needs better than My Community Explorer. But yeah, just thanks for all of the interest and the positive comments and constructive feedback.
And I would like to also echo Chip's remarks. Thank you so much for sticking it out with us 30 minutes after the time that it usually ends, and thank you for your wonderful questions. Please join us next month, Wednesday, August 17 at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time, when Martha Stinson presents Who is Served by the Tip Credit? Effects of minimum wage laws on tipping, employment, and prices at restaurants. So until then, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.